A 21-year-old woman stops at a gas station in Durham, North Carolina, to refuel her car. Within moments, she's gunned down in what appears to be a deliberate act of violence. The surveillance cameras record a quick but fatal attack. By the time emergency services arrive, the woman is unresponsive. She is pronounced dead shortly after at a nearby hospital. Her name is Karizma Mebane. She had no criminal record. She wasn't involved in drugs, gangs, or street violence. Her only crime was being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Or was it? Within 24 hours, police arrest two suspects. They are brothers, 23-year-old Jaquez Reddick and 18-year-old Tracy Crawford. Both have no prior criminal history. They lived at the same address. Neither attempts to flee. The arrests are swift. The charges are serious. First-degree murder. The case raises a series of questions. Why was Karizma targeted? What was the motive behind the shooting? Why did two brothers with no criminal record execute a killing at a public gas station under surveillance? Karizma's death comes just 2 years after her brother Tyra Gaddis was shot and killed in another case of unresolved gun violence. Her family, already broken, now faces another devastating loss. The public is left confused. No robbery. No argument, no known connection, no known motive. As the investigation unfolds, the community watches silently. The prosecution builds a case. The defense remains quiet. And through it all, no clear reason emerges. This is a story of how a quick gas station stop became a murder scene. This is a story of a family trapped in a cycle of gun violence. This is a case of Karizma Mebane and the unanswered questions still echoing through Durham. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. Karizma T. Mebane was a 21-year-old woman residing in Durham, North Carolina. She was a young adult navigating early adulthood in a city with rising concerns about community violence. Karizma had ties to higher education. She was either a student or an aspiring student affiliated with North Carolina Central University, NCCU, one of the prominent HBCUs in the state. Though her academic record remains private, she was known to be involved in her studies and projected a future aligned with personal growth. Those who knew Karizma described her as supportive and energetic. She had a public image rooted in community connection, especially with her family. Her appearance on social media reflects a young woman actively engaged with friends and relatives. Her documented behavior did not suggest any involvement in criminal activity, gang-related associations, or known disputes with law enforcement. Karizma came from a family already impacted by violent loss. In 2020, her brother, Tyra Gaddis, was shot and killed in Durham in a separate incident. His murder remains unresolved. Karizma's death, therefore, was the second violent death in the family within a 2-year span. These two tragedies suggest an escalating pattern of victimization affecting the same household. The Mebane family had already entered the public sphere as survivors of gun violence following Tyra's death. Karizma's killing amplified their presence in advocacy efforts. Though they lacked high-profile media attention, their internal documentation of loss placed Karizma in a broader pattern of recurring community violence in Durham. The incident occurred on Friday, October 7, 2022, at approximately 8:55 p.m. Karizma Mebane was alone at the time. She stopped at a local Valero gas station, which operates under the name Royals Mini Mart, located near the intersection of Hardy Street and Cheek Road in Durham. This gas station is situated in a part of the city known for frequent public foot traffic and late-night operations. The visit to the gas station was routine. There are no records indicating that Karizma had planned to meet anyone there. Surveillance footage later confirmed that she arrived alone. Her intent was to refuel her vehicle, an everyday activity that would not have raised any security flags. As Karizma exited her vehicle or remained nearby, reports indicate that she was suddenly approached or ambushed. She was shot without warning. There were no signs of a verbal argument or altercation preceding the gunfire. The attack appeared deliberate. It was executed swiftly, and the suspects fled the scene immediately. Multiple surveillance cameras were present at the Valero gas station. These systems captured the shooting and the vehicle associated with the suspects. Witnesses nearby reported hearing the gunshots and called emergency services. First responders arrived within minutes and transported Karizma to a nearby hospital. Despite efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The medical report confirmed that the fatal injury was caused by gunshot wounds. There were no other injuries or defensive wounds recorded. The incident lasted only a few seconds but resulted in a complete loss of life. According to the Durham Police Department, surveillance footage captured the events surrounding the incident. The video shows Karizma at the gas station, unaccompanied. There were no signs of robbery or any physical or verbal altercation before the shots were fired. Law enforcement confirmed that the attack happened swiftly and without confrontation. There was no theft, no argument, and no warning. Karizma was shot on site and left at the location. The assailants fled immediately after the shooting. Bystanders at the gas station called emergency services, and paramedics arrived on the scene. Karizma was found unresponsive and suffering from gunshot wounds. She was immediately transported to a nearby hospital, where medical personnel attempted life-saving procedures. She was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Initial crime scene investigations did not recover any weapons. No firearm was left at the scene, and no shell casings were reported in early press releases. Investigators secured surveillance footage, interviewed witnesses, and began processing the gas station and surrounding area for any additional evidence. Forensic teams documented the scene and collected digital surveillance as potential evidence. The absence of a struggle, theft, or argument created a unique profile for the case. It was classified as a deliberate and targeted attack, though no motive had been publicly established at that point. Authorities stated that the rapid capture of suspects within 24 hours was made possible by security footage and neighborhood leads. Less than 24 hours after Karizma Mebane's death, Durham police arrested 2 individuals in connection with shooting. The suspects were identified as Jaquez Reddick, age 23, and Tracy Crawford, age 18. Both were apprehended without incident and charged with first-degree murder. Police records show that both Reddick and Crawford resided at the same address in Durham. They were believed to be brothers or stepbrothers, though no official familial relationship was publicly confirmed. Neither suspect had a prior criminal history. Their clean records and lack of prior charges made the arrest more puzzling to investigators and the public. No indication of motive was provided at the time of the arrest. The Durham Police Department did not release information suggesting any prior connection between the suspects and the victim. Karizma Mebane's family stated publicly that they had no knowledge of either individual before the incident. Authorities moved quickly to charge both suspects with first-degree murder. There was no information provided suggesting gang affiliation, prior disputes, or financial motives. Law enforcement also did not announce whether the suspect had confessed, denied involvement, or remained silent following their arrest. The arrest was processed through the Durham County Detention Center. Both suspects were held without bond. Court documents listed first-degree murder as a charge for both men, indicating premeditation. Investigators stated that the surveillance footage from the gas station was instrumental in identifying the suspects, but the exact content of the footage have not been released publicly. No firearms were recovered during the arrest, according to initial police press releases. It is not publicly known whether weapons were located at a later stage, or if forensic analysis tied any ballistic evidence to the suspects. The rapid nature of the arrest, combined with the clean records of both suspects, left many questions unanswered. The suspect's motive and reasoning for targeting Karizma Mebane remain unclear in official reports. After the arrest of Jaquez Reddick and Tracy Crawford, charges were filed immediately in the Durham County criminal justice system. Both men were formally charged with first-degree murder. The charge implies that investigators believe the killing was intentional and premeditated. Both suspects were ordered to be held in custody without bond. No bail hearings were granted, and both men remained in jail pending trial. At the time of arrest and arraignment, no public defenders or private attorneys had made statements regarding defense strategy. Information on the defense counsel remains limited. No official filings from the defense team have been made public. The prosecution has also remained quiet on details of evidence beyond the surveillance footage. However, officials have stated that digital video will be central to the prosecution's case. To date, no plea deals have been offered or accepted. Neither suspect has entered a guilty plea, and there has been no indication of a potential reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation. The case has not reached the trial stage and remains open in court records. Investigators have not released a motive. They have not suggested whether the shooting was random, targeted, or part of a larger dispute. No communication records, phone logs, or digital messages between the suspects and victim have been disclosed. Surveillance footage from the gas station remains a core component of the case. According to court statements, this video was key to identifying the suspects and may serve as primary visual evidence. It is unknown whether additional footage from surrounding businesses or traffic cameras was collected. As of the most recent updates, the case remains active in the Durham County court system. No trial dates have been announced publicly. Pre-trial motions and evidence discovery procedures are ongoing. The prosecution has made no public comment on potential witnesses, forensic evidence, or timelines for trial. The lack of a clear motive, combined with the absence of a public confession or explanation from the suspects, has added to the mystery surrounding the case. The family of Karizma Mebane has expressed interest in pursuing justice, but has not commented on the legal developments in detail. Her death marks the second loss of a child to gun violence for Mebane family, following the unsolved 2020 murder of her brother, Tyra Gaddis. The resolution of the case depends on the outcome of the ongoing legal process. The suspects remain in custody, the motive remains unknown, and the community continues to await answers. Why would two young men with no criminal history commit a public shooting without apparent motive? Could there be an unknown relationship between the suspects and Karizma Mebane that has not been disclosed? What details could surveillance footage reveal beyond identification? Should the gas station security footage be made public for transparency? How often are suspects charged without a clearly stated motive? Why has there been limited media coverage and public legal commentary on this case? What impact does the lack of recovered weaponry have on building a prosecution case? Could this be a case of mistaken identity or targeted retaliation for a connection the victim did not realize she had? The death of 21-year-old Karizma Mebane was not the first time her family faced the harsh reality of gun violence. In 2020, they lost her older brother, Tyra Gaddis, to a separate shooting incident in Durham, North Carolina. His murder remains part of a broader pattern of unresolved gun-related crimes in the area. The family was already navigating the psychological and logistical aftermath of that first loss when Karizma was killed at a gas station on October 7, 2022. This second tragedy deepened the trauma and placed the family back into public focus. In the wake of Karizma's murder, Chanakwa Spencer, her stepsister, spoke publicly to media outlets. Spencer described Karizma as a genuine, respectful individual who was known for her sincerity and positivity. According to Spencer's account, Karizma avoided trouble and had clear life goals. Her presence was considered stabilizing in the family, especially for younger relatives. Spencer used her platform not only to discuss Karizma's character, but also to promote a message of faith, prayer, and nonviolence. She called for communal healing and advocated for an increase in spiritual intervention, emphasizing the role of church engagement and collective prayer in combating the rising violence in Durham. Following the murder, the Mebane family began conversations around forming a nonprofit organization. This organization would aim to focus on youth mentorship, conflict de-escalation training, and resources for grieving families. Although the nonprofit had not yet officially launched, the family indicated a long-term commitment to advocacy. The goal is to prevent other families from experiencing similar loss through public awareness, education, and preventative community work. The family has also participated in memorial events. Karizma was listed and honored on the National Gun Violence Memorial, a national online archive that documents lives lost to gun-related homicide in the United States. Her inclusion signals not only recognition of her death, but also an attempt by her family to make sure she is remembered beyond headlines. Additionally, the family has attended public candlelight vigils and community-based discussions on violence in Durham. At these events, the Mebane family has taken an active role, choosing visibility over silence. Their participation has included reading scripture, leading prayers, and sharing personal stories about Karizma's upbringing and aspirations. Through interviews and public appearances, the family has made it clear that their response will not be passive. They have established a pattern of public grieving with a strategic intent to bring visibility to the issue of youth gun deaths in Durham and to pressure local officials to act with urgency. Karizma's family has also requested privacy at certain stages of the investigation, but maintained communication with local advocates, students, and faith leaders. Their approach reflects a balance between mourning and mobilization, which has made them central figures in local anti-violence efforts. The community response to Karizma's murder was marked by a mixture of confusion and growing concern. Public reaction intensified after the arrest of two suspects, 23-year-old Jaquez Reddick and 18-year-old Tracy Crawford. Both individuals had no prior criminal history. Their clean record shocked local residents and complicated the narrative. This was not a case involving repeat offenders or known troublemakers. The idea that two individuals with no prior criminal involvement could commit such an act raised serious concerns about undetected behavioral patterns, possible gang initiation rights, or impulsive violent decisions among youth. Community members expressed frustration and fear, especially because the shooting occurred in a public space under surveillance. The location, a busy gas station in Durham, suggested a level of disregard for consequences. This incident added to a growing sense that violence in Durham was becoming increasingly unpredictable and public. Local government and city officials offered limited public statements. The mayor's office did not issue a formal statement on Karizma's death. Law enforcement agencies provided basic facts but refrained from releasing detailed information about the motive or background of the suspects. This lack of transparency led to speculation within the community and a temporary spike in online discourse. Multiple residents took to social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where they posted tributes to Karizma and expressed frustration with the state of public safety in Durham. Hashtags like #JusticeForKarizma and #StopTheViolenceDurham circulated for several days following the murder. These social media movements attracted support from other cities and helped spotlight the case beyond local boundaries. However, the traction was short-lived, and major media outlets did not maintain coverage beyond the initial reports. On Instagram, remembrance posts from Karizma's friends and peers began to surface. One such post read, "21 years old, gone too soon. Please keep her family in your prayers." Another included a photo of her meeting her nephew at a Durham restaurant, an image used to humanize the victim beyond news headlines. These posts served dual functions, mourning and protest. Despite this activity, media coverage remained limited. After the first wave of reports confirming the shooting and arrests, few news stations followed up with investigative stories or in-depth interviews. The absence of major news involvement contributed to the perception that the story was not receiving the attention it deserved, especially compared to other high-profile shootings. Independent activists and small nonprofits tried to maintain attention on the case. Some held community forums, circulated flyers, and invited the Mebane family to speak at educational institutions. But without consistent media amplification, these efforts struggled to sustain long-term public interest. Churches and local youth organizations expressed solidarity. Some held special services dedicated to young lives lost to violence. Local pastors called for increased involvement of religious institutions in youth outreach. However, there were few systemic responses from larger civic or governmental bodies. Most of the visible response came from individuals or small groups rather than from institutional initiatives. The case reignited broader conversations about violence in Durham. Residents cited a pattern of short-lived outrage followed by systemic inaction. The lack of preventive programs, combined with the accessibility of firearms and social tensions among youth, formed the backdrop of many community discussions. Karizma's case became another data point in what some describe as a crisis of normalization, where violent deaths, especially involving black youth, receive minimal sustained attention. Despite these challenges, some community-led efforts remain active. Memorial funds, advocacy plans, and calls for education reform are still circulating within Durham. Karizma's death remained the focal point in these conversations, often cited in discussions about what preventative models might have changed the outcome. Why was there such limited media attention on Karizma's case after the initial report? What role does a suspect's clean criminal record play in legal proceedings and public perception? Should families of gun violence victims lead public movements, or should that responsibility fall on institutions? How can community organizations work to maintain momentum around cases that don't go viral? Is it possible for a city like Durham to reduce random public shootings without state-level support? What does justice look like for a family that has lost 2 children to gun violence within 2 years? On October 7th, 2022, 21-year-old Karizma Mebane was fatally shot at a gas station in Durham, North Carolina. The incident shocked the local community, in part because the suspects arrested were 2 brothers with no prior criminal record. Despite swift arrests and serious charges, many questions remain unanswered. This report examines the known facts and highlights the unresolved elements that continue to complicate the pursuit of justice in this case. As of the latest available information, no official motive has been publicly disclosed. Law enforcement has not released statements clarifying why Karizma was targeted. Investigators have yet to establish whether the shooting was premeditated, impulsive, or an act of mistaken identity. Without a clear motive, the circumstances surrounding the killing remain speculative. Motives in similar cases often involve disputes, such as personal conflicts, retaliation, or criminal enterprises, but no evidence has connected Karizma to any such issues. Her family and acquaintances describe her as having no known involvement in dangerous activities, drugs, or criminal behavior. The absence of a motive has left investigators and the public searching for answers, making it difficult to understand why the attack occurred, and if it was avoidable. No verified evidence indicates that the suspects had any prior relationship with Karizma Mebane. The 2 men arrested, brothers aged 23 and 18, had no criminal history, and no reports have emerged suggesting any personal connection or dispute with the victim. Police have not publicly disclosed if any links or communications existed between the suspects and Karizma. Without such a connection, the shooting could be random or related to other unknown factors. Establishing whether the suspects knew Karizma is critical to determining if this was a targeted attack or a case of mistaken identity. With no known motive or apparent relationship between victim and suspects, it is unclear whether the killing was targeted or random. The gas station where the shooting occurred was a public location with surveillance cameras, suggesting a degree of risk in carrying out such an attack openly. Typically, targeted killings involve some pre-existing conflict or intention to harm a specific individual. However, randomness is also a factor in urban gun violence, where people become victims by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Authorities have not confirmed that the attack was planned against Karizma specifically, or she was mistakenly targeted in a broader conflict. The suspects, 2 brothers living at the same address, had no previous criminal history, which raises questions about their motive and background. The lack of criminal records challenges common assumptions about perpetrators of gun violence. Their decision to commit such a violent act may suggest involvement in previously unknown disputes, influences, or pressures. Alternatively, it could indicate a sudden escalation in behavior or other external factors. Without information from the suspect's defense or interrogation records, the reasons behind their actions remain undisclosed. No public evidence links this shooting to gang activity or ongoing disputes. Durham police have not announced any connections to gang-related violence or retaliation. Similarly, there is no indication the shooting was a case of mistaken identity, though this remains a possibility given a lack of clarity. If it were part of a larger dispute, one would expect related arrests or further police statements, which have not materialized. Surveillance footage from the gas station where the shooting took place played a critical role in the investigation. The cameras captured the incident, providing law enforcement with visual evidence of the crime and the suspects' identities. The footage helped police identify and locate the two brothers swiftly, resulting in their arrest within 24 hours. Video evidence is often key in cases involving public shootings, as it can establish timelines, actions, and suspect appearances, strengthening prosecution efforts. In addition to surveillance video, other evidence must have been considered by prosecutors to file first-degree murder charges against the suspects. This could include forensic evidence, such as ballistics, witness statements, and possibly physical evidence found at the suspect's residence or in their possession. The specifics of this evidence have not been publicly disclosed, but charges of first-degree murder suggest prosecutors believe they have sufficient proof of premeditation and intent. No reports have emerged suggesting the involvement of additional suspects or accomplices in Karizma Mebane's murder. The focus has remained on the two brothers arrested. If further suspects were identified, it is likely law enforcement would announce additional arrests or warrants. Despite the severity of the crime, cases involving victims without public profiles or connections to high-profile incidents often receive limited media attention beyond initial reports. Socioeconomic factors, local biases, and the volume of gun violence in some areas contribute to this. This underreporting can result in a lack of community pressure for resolution and leave families without a public platform to demand justice. Random or seemingly unprovoked acts of violence are difficult to prevent. Awareness of surroundings, avoiding isolated locations at night, and community-based interventions can reduce risk, but cannot eliminate it. Families affected by such tragedies often call for increased public safety measures, better lighting in public spaces, and improved police presence. Justice would likely involve a full trial where evidence is presented to determine guilt or innocence. Given the first-degree murder charges, a conviction could result in a life sentence or other severe penalties under North Carolina law. Beyond legal outcomes, justice may also mean providing answers to the family regarding motive, accountability, and circumstances. The public, law enforcement, and family members all seek a clear understanding of why this occurred to find closure. Karizma's family had previously lost a child to gun violence. Such repeated tragedies reflect broader patterns of violence affecting communities. Addressing this requires multi-layered approaches, including education, community programs, mental health services, economic development, and reform of policing and justice systems. Families and advocates often emphasize prevention over punishment to reduce ongoing cycles of violence. As of now, no trial dates or sentencing information has been released publicly. The case remains open and active in Durham courts. The family continues to mourn and has expressed intentions to advocate against gun violence, including potential nonprofit initiatives. Public interest remains focused on gaining answers about motive and justice for Karizma Mebane. Without disclosure of motive or additional information from the suspects, the case remains shrouded in uncertainty. The investigation continues behind closed doors while the community waits for resolution. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.